Ellie here from the Dark Imp, helping parents reclaim family time by playing board games together. Now, a few weeks ago I did a video on some city building games, but since then I keep finding more city building games and I thought I'd better do another one. In fact, this one's city building and kingdom building. So I've got 3 more domain building games for you today. We'll start with Keyflower. Now, Keyflower is a little more complicated than some of the games that I suggest. So it's good for slightly older children, probably 12 upwards, I'd say. I always ignore what's on the box. It says 13 upwards. Okay, yeah, fair enough. So Keyflower is a city building game where you're creating your own city from tiles that come up during the game. Everybody starts with... where are we? Everybody starts with their own home tile. That's the beginning of your city. And then during the game, you're going to try and win more tiles to add to your city. Once your tiles are in your city, you can use them for the powers they have. And you can also use tiles in other people's cities. Now, the way that you use tiles for the power is by playing meeples, these little miniature people, on top of them. So everybody starts with a random selection of blue, red and yellow meeples, and each player has their own little house. How cute. Look, they've even got decorations inside. And these houses are just for each player to disguise their meeples, so nobody else knows which meeples they have. So you've got your little house, and behind it you've got your meeples on the table. And it's important because you're going to need to use certain colours to do things. And then each round, in the middle of the table, so there's 4 different rounds. There's spring, summer, autumn and winter. Each different round, there's tiles that are placed out on the board. So for example, here are 2 from spring. The actions that you can do from these tiles, they get progressively better as you go through the game. So the autumn ones are better than the spring ones, for example. So there are, depending on how many players you've got, there are a certain number of tiles randomly taken from the whole spring selection out on the board. And you're going to use your meeples to activate them, so to take the action by putting your meeple on top of them, or you're going to use your meeple to place on a side in an orientation that has been designated as your orientation. So if I'm sitting here, it's probably likely to be the side that's closest to me. And if I put it at the side, it means I'm bidding to win this tile. Someone else can bid. They have to bid the same colour of meeple as I have bid. They have to put their bid on their side. So for example, I've bid 1 yellow. And if they wanted to win this tile, they would have to bid more than 1 yellow meeple on their side. So if they're sitting over there, they might put 2 yellow meeples there. Someone else can bid as well, but they'll need to put 3 yellow meeples. And these things are in short supply. You tend to use up most of your meeples each turn, but you can get some more. So as well as bidding on the tiles and using your meeples to take the actions on the tiles, you can also bid on a sort of turn order tile. If you get the first turn order, if you're the first player, then you have the first option to select one of the boats that's coming in, and the boats at the end of each round have a load of meeples on them. So you'll need meeples on there, and there'll also be a little resource tile on this one because there's a square space. Possibly a saw. We've got saws, we've got picks, and we've got something else. Something to do with coal, probably. So there's 3 different types of tools. And they're useful for you in doing some of the actions. So you're trying to win tiles to build up your own city. There are some restrictions about where you put the tiles, and there's restrictions about how you move around your city. And you can then, in future turns, use the tiles that you have in your city to activate them as well, and you will get the meeples back from any actions that have happened in your city at the end of the round. So you're trying to do things which will give you victory points. All the different tiles, well, not all the different tiles, but many of the different tiles, particularly as you go through the game. So if we look at the autumn ones, they'll give you points. So this tile will give you 3 points. If you manage to flip this tile over by upgrading it, then it will give you 10 points. Many of the tiles have this sort of upgrade feature on, and you have to spend a certain amount of resources to upgrade. In this case, it's 3 of these. So, I haven't managed to get a stone one out. There are some grey ones as well. There are 4 different kind of resources, all shown there. I picked up 3 of them. There's a grey one as well. So this one would need 3 of the grey ones on this space to turn it over. And there's rules about how you transport resources around the place. Some tiles produce resources for you, and other tiles give you points at the end. So the winter tiles will just give you points at the end for how many of different things you have, or the placements of your tiles. There's quite a lot going on. There's that, managing your meeples, making sure your resources are in the right places on the different tiles so you can upgrade them and maximise the points, making sure you're using your meeples to win tiles as well as activate them, because that'll help you in future rounds. There's lots going on. It's very, very clever in terms of the bidding system. It's a fun game, but don't get too phased by the initial learning curve. It's worth spending a bit of time watching some playthroughs online, having a go on your own, and then when you're ready to sit down and play with the children, you'll know what you're doing and you'll be able to explain it to them better. You probably all need one complete go through before everybody's really understood it properly. So don't bother scoring the first game you play. And that is, let's put this over here. That's Keyflower. Okay. Secondly, Imperial Settlers. Now, in Imperial Settlers, you have your own sort of, let's move Keyflower out the way, here we are. You have your own faction, and each player plays with a different faction, and the different factions have their own cards. So this is the Barbarians board, and this is the Romans board, for example. They have different sorts of powers and different effects that they can use, and different cards that they can build. So this is sort of the centre of your village or town, and then during the game you're going to collect cards, you're going to build your hand, and you're going to use those cards, you're going to build some of those cards to build out your city on either side in 3 rows of this central board. So there's 3 different kinds of cards that you might build. You might build production cards, and they'll go at the top, feature cards or action cards, and they all have different benefits. At the beginning of each round, what you're going to do, you do some more card drafting, so you get more cards into your hand. You can take from the deck of common cards. You do take from the deck of common cards each turn, so these are cards that go to all players. And then you'll also have your own faction cards, which are just for you to draw from. So these are cards that no one else will have, but everybody will have slightly different ones. And as you build up, you're going to build your faction cards on one side of your board and your common cards on the other side of your board, and you're going to create this sort of sprawling town. So the first thing that happens is that you have production, and different factions have different sorts of production. So the barbarians, they produce lots of workers. These are workers, and they don't produce, at the beginning of the game, they produce no wood, no stone, no food, and so they have to find cards that allow them to do that. Whereas the Romans, they only produce 2 workers, but they also produce wood and stone. So we've got all these little cute wooden components. This is the food, nice apple. And then we have some other things as well. Gold lets you use a gold instead of one of the other types of resources. These swords, they let you raise cards, so destroy cards to gain, sort of like plundering things, to destroy areas to gain the benefits from those areas as a one-time action. And then these shields allow you to protect certain buildings in your city from other people plundering them. So you're going to produce things, and you'll produce your basic production each time. You'll have some cards which produce you more. And during the game, you'll sometimes use your faction cards and put them under this deals section at the top, and this will help you to produce more. So this will produce you a food on each turn. You can get ones that produce more cards, ones that produce swords, ones that produce coins, all sorts of things. Some of the cards are feature cards. They will say things like every time you build a pink building, because they've all got colours, this is a yellow one or gold one. Every time you build a pink building, you get this. You create this. You get these victory points or these number of coins. And then there are actions, and every time you build them, you can use these cards. So once you've built these, you can use these cards as an additional action. So you go through the turn you go through the round in turn. Each player takes an action and passes, takes an action and passes. And until you've passed, you can be attacked. Once you've passed, you're safe from attack. You're trying to do as much as you can, but you're trying not to get too attacked by other people. So it's very interesting. Again, it's a little bit more complicated. So, but once you get the hang of it, you're away and running, because each game is different, but each game is different because of the cards you draw, rather than because it's got super complex rules. So just take enough time to learn how to play it in the first place, and then you'll have loads of replayability. There's also lots of different expansions to Imperial Settlers with new factions in, so you can keep playing different factions which have different abilities and different cards, so it keeps it really interesting. That's Imperial Settlers. And finally, for today, Kingdom Builder. Kingdom Builder has a modular board. I do love a modular board. So there are 8 different boards within the box. And each game you randomly choose 4 of them, and then you do a random setup of these 4 in a 2x2. So it doesn't matter, you can do it, for example, you could do it like this, with another 2 below, or you could do it like this, or you could do it like this, with another 2 to the left. And so you've got lots of different combinations of setup from 8 possible boards you're selecting 4, and each of them can be orientated in any direction. And with that, you've got your terrain for your that you can build on. And then you have a couple of you have 10 different bonus cards that you can draw from, and each game you draw 3. So here I've got the farmers, the miners, and the discoverers. And so these will give us extra end game scoring conditions, and it changes the way you play during that game. Again, you only select 3 each game, and so each game is pretty different. This is a really simple game. This is much more simple than the other 2 games. But there's still quite a lot to think about, and it's not straightforward to win, but it's easy to learn. So during your turn, actually I think at the end of your turn, you pick up one of these terrain tiles. There are 5 different ones, and you pick one at random from a deck. And once they're used, you just recycle through them. So we have the sort of flower beds, I'm sure it's called something else, flower something or other, the woods, the canyon, the grasslands and the desert, and they each relate to areas on the board. So you can see we've got the flowers, flower beds or whatever, the desert, the woods, the grassland and the canyon. There are also two other kinds of terrain, the water and the mountains, and you're not able to build on these. You have to build on whichever card terrain type you drew. So if you've drawn the desert, you have to build on the desert. And you build by using these, you have loads of these. You start with loads of, I think it's 40 or something, I can't actually remember, of these little wooden houses, and you have your own colour. And on your turn, you're going to build, I think it's 3. I think it's 3 as standard. You're going to build 3 of these on desert. Now they have to be next to something else you've already built if possible. They've got to be in a hex that's adjacent to it. So if I've already built here, I'm going to have to build my 3 around this on adjacent hexagons. You can only put 1 house in each hex. If I had built here on this flower bed, then I have to, if I've drawn desert, I have to build in desert next to the flower bed. But once you've completed a section, you can go somewhere else. So if you are able to place next to a settlement you've already built, you must do so. So this is about how you make sure you're not shafting yourself by forcing yourself to complete huge sections of grassland, for example. But also making sure that you're getting the best scoring opportunities. You score by being next to these castles. These castles will give you points at the end of the game. And if you manage to get something next to one of these special tiles, then you're going to take a tile which will give you a special action. So each of these 8 boards has different tiles on them. So look, here for example, this one has 2 castles and 1 boat. If you build next to the boat, you're going to, and this is placed near the boat to remind you what it does, you're going to take a boat tile from on top of that hex, and then that gives you an extra action. Each turn you're allowed to move a settlement you've already built onto a water tile. This is the only way of building on water, by having one of these special actions. So at the end of the game you're going to score up according to your scoring conditions for that game. So for example, we had discoverers build settlements on many horizontal lines. So you get 1 point for each horizontal line that you have built at least 1 settlement on. Miners gives you points for settlements built next to the mountains. And farmers gives you points for each of your own settlements in that sector with the fewest of your own settlements. So you're going to look at how many settlements you've got in each of the 4 corners of the board, 4 areas of the board. Look at the one with the least and then count up that number of settlements that you get points for. All of these boards have a score track on the back. So one of the ones you're not using, you just turn it, flip it over, make it into the score track, and you count up your points at the end. It's endlessly different. It's very straightforward to teach. It's quite quick to play. It's a fun kingdom building game, aptly named Kingdom Builder.